Hey everyone, and welcome to my 2022 reading stats. It's January 2023, so it's time to do my 2022 reading stats. So I'm just going to go through all of the different charts and things like this and have a sort of look, see which ones were my best reading months, where I can improve, if there's any surprises, that kind of thing. So let's get started with the books read per month. So February and also November were my best reading months with 33 books each. I know November was Black Panther month, so I was just mainlining Black Panther that month. And the reason why February is also so big on reading is because I read 29 graphic novels that month, because it was the Graphics Are Fun challenge, I think it was, which was to read a graphic novel every single day throughout the month of February, and I ended up reading 29 instead of 28, so that explains that. That's fine. I'm pretty happy with the numbers overall. I'm averaging between like 20 and 30. Obviously December, March and January were under that, and also August actually, but I mean I'm still quite happy with those numbers. And I mean, even with all those fluctuations, it does mean I read 287 books last year, and that is ridiculous. That is absolutely ridiculous. I will say that I'm going to thank graphic novels for this, because I read a lot of them, especially around the time that Marvel released new things, because then I read about those characters in their graphic novels, things like this, for research for the Comic Book Sanctum and also for my own enjoyment, that kind of thing. So yeah, a lot of that is comics. I don't know the exact breakdown yet. We'll look at that in a minute. I've just sort of screenshotted everything and I'm going to go through it in a minute. But I mean, to get to 287 books in 1 year is pretty damn good. It kind of makes me want to wish I'd read 13 more just to reach 300, but I mean, 287 is still ridiculous, and I'm still ridiculously happy with that. I mean, last year I read like 150, so 287 is a great number. I'm not going to aim for that high again, but I mean, I'm still really happy with that, and that's all books off the TBR, so pretty happy with that, to say the least. I'm pretty happy with that. Next we have the pages read per month, and this one is averaging 4-5k per month, and I'm quite happy with that. Again, this is skewed for graphic novels. I'm not reading novels this big. My god, I couldn't manage that. But this is all graphic novels, or like a lot of it's graphic novels. We'll see the full breakdown in a minute, because graphic novels I can usually read in about 45 minutes to an hour, and each one is about 120 pages long each. So that's why this number is so high, because I can get through like 500 pages in a day of graphic novels, because I've read like 4 or 5 that day essentially. So that's why the numbers are so high. I can tell you that right now, but I'm still really happy with that, because that's all pages and books off the TBR, and it totaled 58,381 pages. That is incredible. Like, that is an incredible number of pages. That is ridiculous. That is absolutely ridiculous. I'm not even going to comment on that further than to say that that is absolutely ridiculous, because that is a ridiculous number. As for reading method, it is primarily ebook. It's 63.1% ebook, which isn't surprising to me. A lot of my stuff is on Kindle. Again, it's the graphic novels, because I buy a lot of them on ebook because I don't have room for them in physical format, and also I have a subscription to Marvel Unlimited, which is their app where all of their graphic novels are stored. So a lot of it is ebook. I can't read how many physical books it is. Like in total it's either 80 or 90, which is not too bad, but it does only work out at 31.4% of the books I read were physical, which I thought I read more than that, but apparently I don't. Either way, it's still books off the TBR though, so I'm not really going to complain that much about that. And then also I had 5.6% audiobook, which is not too bad either. That works out at 16 audiobooks last year, which, considering I don't usually listen to audiobooks apart from the last couple of years, I'm pretty happy with that. That is a pretty good number, but it does shock me a little bit on the physical book, but at the same time, not really. It's one of those, I kind of expected it, kind of didn't. It's one of those, but maybe I should read more physical books. But again, most of my stuff is on ebook, so swings and roundabouts. I guess it's all stuff off the TBR. That's what I'm going to say. It's all still stuff off the TBR. As for my genre breakdown, I read 56.4% fantasy, which works out at 162 books, which shocks no one, because for the majority of my reading, I read fantasy. I love fantasy. It is my favourite genre by far. I definitely love it, so that is fine. I'm not even going to try and change that, whatever, because I enjoy fantasy so much. I read 98 sci-fis, which works out at 34.1% of my reading, so that isn't too bad either, to be fair. That's probably skewed a little bit because I count things like Iron Man, Guardians of the Galaxy, Black Panther, people like this. All of that goes into the sci-fi genre, whereas fantasy is more like the Thor, Doctor Strange, things like this. It depends on what I'm reading, but I mainly count my Marvel stuff as science fiction, just because they're dealing with like huge technology, things like this, and unless it's explicitly fantasy, I write it down as sci-fi. So that's probably where some of that came from, but I did want to read more sci-fi this year, so that is definitely counted on that one. I read nearly 100 sci-fis last year, so that is definitely an improvement on the year before. Contemporary came at 2.1%, and I've no idea what that could be outside of Elle McNichol. And that says it's 6 contemporaries, and I read 2 Elle McNichols, and then I can't think what else it could have been in terms of contemporary, so I'm going to have to look that up, because I didn't think I read that many, but apparently I did, and I enjoyed them, so that's fine. Horror was 11 books of horror, which was 3.8% of my reading. I know at least a few of those was Tokyo Ghoul. At the very least, a few of those were Tokyo Ghoul. So that's where that came from. And I also read a couple of other spooky, horror-y things as well. So I think I need to check out more horror. I definitely want to check out more horror books. And then crime was 1% of my reading. And I read 3 crime books. I'm not entirely sure what that was. Maybe Moon Knight? Maybe? Could have been Moon Knight. I can't think what else it could have been, to be honest, but I don't think I counted Moon Knight as crime. I think I counted it as fantasy or contemporary. I have no idea. I'm going to have to look this up, but maybe I need to check out crime genres as well, because I read 3 of them last year. So I'm going to have to check what I thought about them and what that was exactly, because I can't remember. As for the book format, again, 71.1% was graphic novel, and then 3.5% was manga, and then 21.6% was novel, and then 2.4% was novella. Okay, this year I want to read more novels. I've put this out there in my goals video that I want to read more novels. I read 62 last year. My goal is 60, so I've maybe slightly lowered that. Maybe I should have made that goal after checking this, but I think I need to read more novels, because I am focusing a lot on graphic novels right now, which I enjoy, don't get me wrong. I love reading graphic novels, and I was mainlining quite a few of them this year, but maybe I need to read a few more of my novels, because I do have a lot of novels that I need to read. I mean, my shelves are filled with them, so I think this year I need to focus more on novels, and I'd also like to build up that manga bit, actually, in a completely opposite way round of what I just said, but I'd like to build up more manga. It should have been more manga, but my library didn't have any, so that kind of got thrown by the wayside, but only about 23% in total of my reading was novels last year. I'd like to make that more 50-50 if I can, I think, because that is a little bit ridiculous. Because I love reading books. I don't just like reading novels, like graphic novels. I need to read more books. I'm going to hire that next year. I'm going to make that more. I'm not going to aim for a specific number. I'm just going to say over 60. My current goal is 60 books, 60 graphic novels as like a thing. But I'd like to hire that maybe a little bit more, but I'd like to make that more than just 21% novels, I think, this year, because that is ridiculous. I need to read more books that aren't comics. That's what I've learned. I need to read more books that aren't comics. As for author diversity, this definitely could have been set out better, because I seem to have made some weird choices here and writing it all down. I mean, there is 52 written down as people of colour, but then I've also got Japanese, Latinx, Indigenous, Black, Arab American, Indian American, things like this. So I definitely should have done that better and put it all into one category than specified later. So that I will work on next year, so this makes a little bit more sense. But that's a few more than last year. I think there's another chart in a minute that goes into it properly, but 165 straight white able-bodied people. I don't think I'm getting closer to my 50-50 goal, so that's not good. But I mean, at least I read from various other identities as well, and this sort of breaks it down a little bit better, but I definitely could have done better on that. I definitely think I could have done better on that by the looks of that chart there. And then if you go into the actual breakdown, that was 36 black authors, which isn't too bad. I then also read from some Japanese authors and Jewish authors and Arab American authors, things like this. So that's not too bad, but again, that is 70% white. That is 70% white. That needs to change. Definitely, I still need to work towards that like 50-50 goal. If I remember last year though, it was about like 80-20 I think, so I'm getting there slowly. I'd like to keep on working towards that 50-50 goal though, but it's definitely getting better on the POC author front for certain. I just need to do that bit better, I think. I definitely need to do a bit better on that one. Then also in terms of own voices, it was 24%, smack bang 24% actually, reading books that were own voices, so that's not as good as I was hoping. That's nearly a quarter, so I'm getting there on that one, but again, I'm still working towards that 50-50 goal, but I'm pretty sure last year it was like 21%, so I read a little bit more own voices, so I need to still keep on chipping away at that, definitely. Then if we go into the representation in the actual books I was reading, I had 15.7% had LGBTQI plus representation in there, and then 7% of that was the main character, so that's not too bad. That is 22% of the books I read had LGBTQI plus rep in them, and then that broke down into gay characters, trans characters, pansexual characters, lesbian characters, bisexual, gay, trans, bisexual, polyamorous relationships as well, queer, and then also asexual. So that's not too bad in terms of like the different kinds of representation that was in there, but I definitely need to work more on getting that again higher. As for disability representation, that's better than it was last year, definitely, because I read 48 books that had disability representation in there, so 4 of them had autism rep, so that's pretty good. I also had ones where characters were blind. That was reading stuff with Daredevil in, I know that for a fact, so I need to read more Daredevil, definitely. Prosthetic leg, that is a character from the New Mutants in the Reign of X, Dawn of X stuff. I know that because I was just reading that yesterday. Dissociative identity disorder, that was definitely all of my Moon Knight reading, so I knew that was coming. Wheelchair user was probably Charles when I was reading X-Men again. And nerve damage I counted under Doctor Strange because his hands are nerve damaged, which is why they shake so much. So I definitely had more of like a disability representation in my books, but that was mainly comics, so I need to work more on getting that into my novels as well. But it is showing that there is a bit of more diversity in disability and also LGBTQI+ in the comics I'm reading, but I definitely need to work more on that being own voices, and then also in my novels as well. That is a goal for next year. As for the age categories I was reading, I read 7.7% middle grade, 25.8% adult, and then 65.9% young adult. Yeah, that tracks, that's fine, I'm quite happy with that. I would maybe like to read a bit more middle grade, to be honest, because I thought I read more than that, but apparently I didn't. But yeah, apart from that, I'm pretty happy with that. That seems about right for what I've got on my shelf, so that's absolutely fine. As for how I got it, 67.6% of the books I read I own, so that's pretty good that I'm getting down that own TBR, pretty happy with that. Audible was obviously all the audiobooks, and then library was 30% as well. And considering most of the books I got from the library were mangas at the beginning of the year, and then I went to more audiobooks, I'm pretty happy with that breakdown actually, because I mean that still means I'm supporting my library, which I want to do, but I'm also getting my own TBR down, so yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. I'm not going to try and change that whatsoever. That's fine by me. In terms of rereads, 5.6% was rereads, and then 94.4% was first time. So that I'm pretty happy with. I think rereading was probably Skullduggery Pleasant, and then also Sandman, and maybe a couple of others here and there. So I'm pretty happy with that. I'm much happier reading stuff that I've read that I'm reading for the first time, because again, that's cutting down my TBR. So pretty happy with those numbers. As for whether it was a series or standalone, I read 22.6% standalones and then 77.4% on series. That I'm pretty happy with, because I do want to be getting my series down. And this is what shocks me on this chart, is that I finished 54 series and started 49. And I know exactly what that is. That is Jason Aaron's Thor run. That is Jason Aaron's Doctor Strange run. That is G. Willow Wilson's Miss Marvel run. That is a lot of different graphic novels that I was reading. So again, it's the graphic novels. But again, that is finishing series. And I mean, I did finish a couple of other series as well. I finished Skullduggery last year. I finished, or at least caught up with, several others. So that's not too bad. I'm just looking at that going, I finished 54 series this last year? That seems like a lot, and I don't remember doing it. But then it's like, no, because I read so many graphic novel series that I was just finishing them all the time. So that's where that comes from. But that isn't too bad. I'm pretty happy with that. I thought I'd only finished like 5 series last year, so that is a pretty damn good, like, stat there. I'm quite happy to have finished 54 different series last year. That is incredible. As for my star rating, I read 18 5-star books. I then also had 175 4-star books, and then 83 3-star books, and then a few that was like 2 stars and 1 star. So that is pretty good. I mean, I would have liked a few more 5-star reads, but 4-star is my average rating. I mean, I could have told you that anyway, so that means I am enjoying what I'm reading. I'm picking stuff that I really like, so I'm pretty happy with that. I don't want to like try and fiddle with that or whatever. That I'm quite happy with. It means I know my taste quite well, so pretty happy with that. Number of books per author. This is where you really see what I was reading. So I read 23 Jason Aaron books last year, which shocks no one, because I read Thor by Jason Aaron, Doctor Strange by Jason Aaron, and Jason Aaron was also involved, I think, in the X-Men, so I read a lot of that. I also read 13 G. Willow Wilson books. That I'm not surprised about either, because I was reading Miss Marvel last year. Ta-Nehisi Coates, again, that was 12. That's the whole Black Panther run. Reginald Hudlin has got a larger slice of that pie. Various is, again, Dawn of X, all the rest of it, and any sort of bind-up of various authors and short stories. Dan Slott was 6. I'm pretty sure I read more than that for Dan Slott, but again, that's fine. Derek Landy I read 6 books by as well. Pretty sure that was supposed to be more than that, but there we go. 8 Neil Gaiman. Well, at least all of that was Sandman. Oh, am I kidding? All 8 of that is Sandman, because I read some comics and then I also listened to the audiobooks as well of Sandman, so yeah, that makes sense. I think what this shows, though, is that I need to read more diverse authors and the number that I'm reading, because a lot of these people are white. And I mean, I did read 2.8% Reginald Hudlin, and then also James Tynion. I read 1.4% of that is Something That Is Killing the Children, and then I also read 1% Saladin Ahmed stuff. But yeah, I think I need, according to this, I think I need to read more diverse authors in terms of, like, how many of their books I read. Definitely. Because some of this is skewed because of Black Panther. And because I read a lot of Black Panther, but yeah, I think I need to pick more diverse comic book authors if I'm going to be reading this many graphic novels as it is. And then just in general, I definitely need to read more from diverse authors of some description, because that is an incredibly white wheel in terms of author. Obviously, it's an incredibly colourful wheel in terms of the slices, but I need to read more diverse authors. Again, I knew this was coming, but I need to read multiple books from those diverse authors as well, because if I'm reading like a lot of white authors and the same white authors, that's still not good. It just means I enjoy their work, which is fine, and I enjoy reading, say, Jason Aaron, like I said, and like Neil Gaiman and Dan Slott and Derek Landy. I think I also need to read more like Ta-Nehisi Coates, Reginald Hudlin, James Tinian, Mariko Tamaki, Saladin Ahmed, people like this. Definitely need to work on that. As for the nationality, 77.4% was American, and only 10% was English, 3.5% was Japanese, and then 3.1% was Canadian. I need to do better on that. Definitely need to do better on that one, flat out. I'm not even going to try and comment on that. I'm just going to say I need to do better on that one entirely. And then the last thing I have is new or returning author. So I'm mostly reading books from authors I've read from before, which is fine, and then also new authors as well. That's about a quarter of it, so I'm going to say that's a pretty good sort of stat there, and a good sort of thing where I'm reading from authors I still I really enjoy, but also discovering new authors, that kind of thing. That's a pretty good breakdown. I'm pretty happy with that. And that is all of the stats I wanted to go into, because that is all of the stats I have. So that was an interesting look at my reading year. What I have learned is that I need to go outside of reading American, English, Canadian and Japanese authors. I need to go outside of that, or at least expand more on the Japanese authors, and then outside of just predominantly white countries. So definitely need to work on that. I still need to work more on my own voices side of things as well, and reading more from authors I really enjoy who are POC, things like this. I need to work more on that one. I need to read more women. I need to read more novels, because apparently graphic novels is still kicking my novel collection's ass, so that needs working on, because I have a lot of novels that I am apparently neglecting, so I need to get on that. But in terms of age range, star rating and also genre, I'm pretty happy, though I do want to read more horror, because apparently I enjoy horror, so need to get on that. But overall, in terms of like star rating, genre, that kind of thing, I'm pretty happy with it. I still have room for improvement though, like always, but this is a working project, and this isn't gonna like happen in the space of a year, so I'm still working towards that diversity goal and things like this. So overall, reasonably happy. Few surprises, but reasonably happy, but there's still room for improvement. And that is where I'm going to leave this video, so I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please do give me a thumbs up. Comment down below, tell me your horror recs. I would love some, because apparently I need to read more horror, or if you don't have that much time, leave me a statistic related emoji down below to let me know that you're here. I'll also leave a link as well down below to all of my social media if you want to check it out, including to the Comic Book Sanctum, which is my website dedicated to Marvel Comics, which is apparently where I spend a lot of my reading time. So check that out if you are interested and you want to get into graphic novels. All of the information will be down below, as well as a link down below to my Etsy and Redbubble store, which sells bookish merch if you're interested in that. Or if you just want to see any more of my videos, please click subscribe here, and over here will be the link to my previous video. Until next time everyone, bye!